Welcome everyone to Balancing Act. I am here with our good friend Corrine Zuleger. How you doing, Corrine?
I am fantastic, and I'm so happy to be here, Linda. I'm so happy to be in the empowered living community and speaking to everybody within this community. So thank you for having me.
We're excited to have you, and I'm sorry we're missing Sam today, but so excited to have you on the show. And Corrine, give us a little bit of history about who you are and how you keep your busy life in harmony.
Oh, who am I? Okay. Well, Corrine Zuleger, like you said, I work primarily with women, coaching women. I like to think I live a pretty in harmony life. I live with my husband. We live in the state of Wisconsin. I've been part of the empowered living community now for, I think, 8 years. Um, and it doesn't matter to me what Paul's teaching. I will hang on every word that he says. And I could listen to him teach all day long, which I've already said. Um, so harmony, right? I mean, let's talk about it. I
Right,
mean,
because you
what's
hear
it
people
like?
talk about keeping work-life balance, and I don't know about you, but that's a myth in my life. There is no balance. And what I found is that balance means something has to give. And for most of us, that's not an option, right?
I agree. Yeah, I think balance gives you the illusion that kind of like too, like you can juggle two things, right? And more than often we have more than two things that we're juggling. Because we might be juggling children, we might be juggling part-time jobs and full-time jobs and entrepreneurship and then there's if we're doing service within our community. And so we could have lots of balls spinning in the air.
Right.
And yeah, so I'm with you. I don't really think there's such a thing as balance, but I do like to find a harmony within my life. And I can tell when my life is out of harmony. Because that is typically for me, I will be in a state of frustration. That can just look like, oh, it easily kind of set off by something, and I'm just frustrated because there just hasn't been the time for me, is pretty much the way it ends up at the end of the day. And I think most women can attest to that, right? If we don't take that time for ourselves, we can get a little testy.
And I think that goes, even for men when they don't
Oh,
take time for
absolutely. Yeah,
themselves,
yeah,
they get
yeah.
a little testy, and a lot of times they don't want to acknowledge why they're testy.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Yeah,
You
we
know,
see that
you know,
here.
and
We
the
got,
mom in us, even for women that don't have their own children, there still is that mom instinct that comes out where
hmm
we look after, we
Nurture,
take care
caretaker.
of, and men have the father instinct, but the mother and father instinct, I think, present differently. And in order for there to be harmony in the homestead, right, we have to learn how to let everybody's way of doing things find a way to flow. Because harmony is about a flow, it's an ebb and a flow, and you kind of go with the tide. And maybe today this thing needs more attention than this thing. And with balance, you can be in balance, but as soon as you move, something has to give because you're not in balance anymore.
For sure. Yeah.
And I think the 80s and 90s were a time where we tried to keep that balance
Mm.
and we were frustrated because it doesn't work.
Right.
But we didn't understand that it doesn't work. We thought there was something wrong with us,
Oh my
right?
goodness. Yeah, 100%. I think, yeah, because I figure the 90s, into the 2000s, I mean, raising babies and trying to work and run the kids to do all the things and still think, right, that there was going to be some sort of balance. And it really
Right.
was about harmony. It was, this was a season, and having the children and running the children was a season of life. And now Vaughn and I have shifted the season of life. Our children are grown. They're out of the house. They're very independent humans. They live on opposite sides of the country. And so he and I are in that I will air quote empty nest stage of life. And even, just a handful of months ago, we lost our dog. And so it's like, now it's really weird because we could go and do anything we want, but when she was a puppy, we had to be home all the time, right? And
Right.
kids are small, you need to be, there's more to do there. So, that end of life gets a little more heavy. Um, but then now you get into this season of life and there's more free time for the two of us. Um, and I really look at like harmony too, like, am I in harmony with the things that I desire? Am I in harmony with my own personal life? Am I in harmony with God? Am I, in harmony with the dreams that I have and the vision that I have for my life moving forward? What does that really look like? Or am I still do I still have one foot in my past life and the other foot over here? Because I'm thinking, well, just in case it doesn't work out, I'm going to keep all my own old clothes. I think, I know I'm not the only person that has done this before. I don't do it anymore, but right, keeping those jeans, thinking that I'm going to get back into them, right? And
Right.
actually, I will tell you, we're going to clean the garage out. And there are some items in there that I had been hanging on to in the hopes that, like when the time comes when we're grandparents, I have, like these strollers and just some things that were the kids. And I said to Vaughn, I said, here's the reality of that. Like that energetically it's taking up a whole bunch of energy. And I'm gonna want the new fancy stuff, not the stuff we used 30 years ago. So I might as well donate it and let somebody else use it that could use it because it's so silly. It's just sitting out there, nobody's using it. It's just taking up energy. So yeah, I'm looking at it, or let's clean some of this stuff out because it's not in harmony with the vision that we have right now and that we're moving towards. So it's time for some of this stuff to go. So that's been a
And
conversation.
we have a tendency to do that thinking, we want to use that. But
Mhm.
in order to bring new things into our life, we have to let go of the old things
Oh
because we have
yeah.
to make the space.
Yeah.
And so when we hold on to those things, we're really not leaving the space for what we're looking for to come in because there's no room because we got this stuff over here.
Ah.
And it's not just stuff, it's mental stuff,
Oh yeah.
you know? And
Love
I
it.
have found that harmony is a much easier thing for me on the physical end than it is on the mental end.
Mm,
And I think a lot of us forget about that mental harmony, which I think is the most important part. Because if we don't get
absolutely.
the mindset right, the rest of it's not, well, it's going to follow whatever the mindset is.
Yeah.
And, Paul talks to us about that all the time, but I don't think we always, at least for me, I have to remind myself over and over again, I am getting what I put out there, but am I putting out there what I want?
Yes, exactly. Nostalgia takes us, right? It
Yeah,
takes us to the past. And, when we lose the people that we love, of course we hang on to that. And you had kind of like this almost like a panic, and it was like, oh my goodness, like if I let go, you know, am I going to forget about my people? My mom and my dad and my brother and my best friend. Am I going to forget? No, I'm not going to forget, but it can feel like that, right? It can feel like letting go feels like that, but energetically, it just opens up a space and allows something new to come in. And, even, like with hanging on to the past, that energetically, and then, like, I don't know if you do this, but I go into the cupboard, look in the pantry, and I'm thinking, why do I? why do I still have that or that? And it's like, oh, I don't want to throw it out because it's still good, but I know that it's not something I should be eating if I want to make a shift in my diet, right? If I want to eat healthier and that bag of chips is still in there, but yet you don't want to throw it out because it's still good.
Yeah, we were
Okay.
raised not to waste food.
It's good, right?
There are
There's
starving children in Africa.
right, right, exactly, right. Like you're singing the same songs and but so there's that, right? There's the food, and we taught our kids, what are you putting in your eyes? What are you putting in your ears? And what are you putting in your mouth? Who do you surround yourself with? Because that it's really difficult to be in your own harmony if I am bringing in negative energy. So that music that has those really harsh lyrics, it does have an effect on us. Those video games with all the violence, the
Mhm.
movies with the violence, it impacts us. I know people want to believe it doesn't, but it does. And it alters our vibration, so that's another important piece of the harmony,
Right.
so like what are you doing? What are you doing to make sure that you are in alignment so that your life can be in harmony.
Because
Again,
we will be in harmony with our vibration.
yeah,
Is it the one we want?
yes, exactly. Because like, am
And
I listening to angry music?
and you
No.
know, I grew up, I love heavy metal.
Oh,
I love the old rock and roll, and I
classic rock, me
love the
too.
blues. And when I think about it, what I love about the blues is the raw emotion that goes into blues, right?
Right. Hmm.
But it is the blues, right? And
It's
it's
yeah.
very hard for me to give up because it's the music that speaks to me. But
Mm,
is it speaking the right thing to me?
yeah.
And I struggle with that, so I've been trying not to listen as much.
Yeah.
But the reason it speaks to me is that the singers and the musicians, they are putting their whole self into what they're playing, and that's the part that speaks to me. But I know that that doesn't necessarily block out the lyrics. And
Right.
so,
Or the vibration, right? Because
or the
that
vibration.
vibration has that frequency that it has an impact on our bodies. Um, I mean, it does, and I know it does. But I too, I mean, I love the blues, I love jazz. I'm not a huge rap fan, but even like
Yeah,
country music. And I can remember, growing up and my dad's oldest sister loved like the, traditional country music. And my dad would just be like, why are you listening to that crying your beer crap? It's like that's gonna drag you down the sewer, and but I grew up listening to classic rock, right? I mean, it was
right,
any kind of classic rock you can think of is what my dad listened to, but it really is, it affects us. Everything has that impact on us. And we get to decide, we choose, right? It's like I can
right,
say, I could blame it on Vaughn that he brought home the chocolate, but I'm the one that decides if I'm going to put it in my mouth, right?
right,
I
right.
decide,
He's not force feeding you.
not right.
Yeah,
He's not waterboarding me to eat chocolate, he's not, but then it's like, am I in harmony too? Like I said, with God, with what is my soul calling me to do? I think often, especially like when we just start out in our entrepreneur journey, we want to get it right, and so maybe we take in clients that in the coaching world, maybe we take in a client that isn't necessarily our ideal client, and then we can recognize that it's not in harmony. And then we don't do that again because it's like, oh yeah, no, this wasn't a really good fit. And I think that's important to keep in mind when we're moving along. I know, like the kink in the hose, we can by force negates, right? And we can, um,
right,
if
right,
we're pushing too much to try to make things happen. And I know Paul teaches that we can make it welcome. I can, I can create the energy field to attract it in and make it welcome so that, you know, right, being a causative being that I am, that I can create what needs to be created. And that includes harmony. I know that, like, so for my husband, there are certain times a year where he puts a lot more hours in because that is when pickles are harvested here in Wisconsin. When pickles are harvested here in Wisconsin, he's busy, 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 busy.
Right.
And so I know that's going to happen, right? And so I find the things that I can do to, help me take up that time, if you will, while he's gone being really busy. But he knows that that's
Right.
temporary, right? This isn't how it is every week. If it
Right. And
was like that every
it's
week, he
not
probably
permanent.
wouldn't do it.
Right, right.
So,
And that's so true because my roommate Lydia, she does gift baskets and Christmas is always, like between I would say the beginning or middle of November until about 10 days before Christmas is crunch time.
okay.
And I just know that I need to, if I have the bandwidth, I help her, you know, she'll set up she'll set up a she'll do the first basket and then I can't wrap. I cannot wrap them to save my life. They will not leave the house if I put the wrap on them, but I can put them together.
Yeah.
So, I do the assembly line and then she does the pretty.
Okay.
And I try to leave my time during that time to be able to help her because she's a solopreneur like me. And
Hmm.
I don't want her staying up till 3 o'clock in the morning, putting the baskets together and then wrapping. It's hard on her
Yeah.
hands. I can
Yeah.
do part of it. I enjoy doing part of
Yeah.
it. I do the part she allows me to do, and then she touches it up and puts it all together and makes it look fabulous. And if she makes the bows, I can tie the bows on. I can do that. So I know that that's her busy time, and I try to allow for that.
Yeah. The same
And if
here.
I can't help her, I try to get out of her way. You know,
Yeah.
and she spends all of her time apologizing. I'm like, no, it's so festive. She's got all the pretty colored shred and it's
Oh,
like
yeah. Yeah.
confetti and it's
Yeah.
so much fun. And we have learned how to make that a harmonious and fun time
Yeah.
instead
I
of
love
the stressful time that it could be because
it.
it's what she does. And I'm not going to tell her she can't do it. I enjoy watching her do it and I enjoy helping her as much as I can. So,
It's so important, right? I think we
it's
see
so
that.
important. There are so many things outside of our control, but what we can control is our response to what's
Absolutely.
going on. And I think that is one of the biggest things about being in harmony is
Mhm.
learning to start that harmony within.
Absolutely. And because it's where it all is.
Yeah,
It's inside of you. It's decisions that you make. It's choices that you make, right? Taking, that circle of responsibility, that I could get angry. I could be like so mad, or I can take and really look at it and think, and I think it works both ways, right? So
yeah,
if I'm really busy, right? Well, then my husband will come and, and help with the things that need to be done, make dinner, do whatever. The other night when we were doing your show, right, Vaughn made dinner and that way I could just be more relaxed and um and help, with cleanup and when the kids were small, and life looked different, right? So life was very different for us when the kids were small because it took a lot more work to take care of that. So
right,
recognizing and in really asking for help. So I think I see this with women, right? We don't want to have to ask for help. We want to be like, oh, I can do it all. And it's like, no, no, ask for help. Like get the help. Like, if somebody offers to help like watch your kids while you go grocery shopping without them. I mean, not every time, because they need to learn.
right. But if somebody's offering,
Go. Yeah. Go.
allow them the gift of being of service because they've asked.
Yeah, exactly. They said I'll do this, and I think that's really important because then too, or somebody says, "Oh, well, I'll take the kids so you and your husband can go out on a date." Yeah, do it. Like, go out on the
Yeah,
date. take the time, right? You
So
create that
somebody's
space.
offering, be a
Hmm.
gracious receiver.
Yes. Oh man.
Don't take over advantage, but again, that's part of the habits and the harmony that we bring into our life. Because if we're saying no to that, what else are we saying no to?
Right.
And does
Yeah.
that mean that's not showing we're open to receive the things that we are trying to receive?
Yeah. Yeah.
So there, you know, we hear the saying all the time, how you do anything is how you do everything. So if
Absolutely.
we're saying no to the things that open us up to be able to get what we're going after and what we're working towards, it's us that's saying no to our dream. And that is not in harmony
And I
at
think,
all.
like, say, like, who's the matter with me, right? We want to
Right.
make it easier, and it's way more fun to blame other people, right?
Of course.
Having to look in the mirror and, point the finger back at me. I had read this once too, like if I'm pointing at someone else and I'm saying you, how many fingers are pointing back at me? You know,
Right.
way more than are pointing away. So, really start to take, analyze, where's my part in all of this? And I would say that like exercise, it was like, oh, you can make a million and one excuses as to why you can't fit exercise into a day, right? And then, something will come up in life where it no longer is a choice, right? If you want to live a healthy life,
Right.
it's like you need to do this exercise or you need to eat right. And, I encourage people to not wait until we're in that emergency state, to make those changes and do those things and take those times. And it doesn't have to be, I used to be like this, Linda. I used to think if I don't have a solid hour to work out, I'm not working out. It's a waste of time.
Yeah, I used to do that too. Or, it takes so long by the time I get to the gym, I don't have enough time. And so I'll do it at home and I
It's
won't do it
just,
at home.
but it was like, and now I look at it and I think, heck, I got 5 minutes. I'm gonna pop outside. I'm gonna go for a quick, 5-minute walk. And
Oh
like
yeah, and I prefer to
physically I'm
work out.
saying,
I prefer to do stuff outside anyway. I
yeah,
hate the gym.
absolutely. So it's like, but it was like that
Yeah.
limited thinking kept me out of having that piece of harmony in my life because getting outside and moving my body is very critical to my mental well-being. So it's like, get out there and do the 5 minutes, do the 10 minutes, do it 3, 4 times a day, then and it all adds up, right? So it's
It
that
does. And Corinne, this has been such a wonderful chat. I love having you on. And
me
I
too,
hope
me
everybody
too.
got lots of value from what we talked about. We will put in the notes if anybody wants to catch up with Corinne and work with
Yeah.
her. We will have those links in there. But thank you for coming on the show today and talking about different ways to find harmony. We all need that, especially now.
Mhm.
So
Yeah, exactly.
thank
Thank
you
you for
so
having me.
much. You bet. And we'll see everybody else on the next show. Talk to
Thank
you soon.